If you still have questions after reaching the end of the Netflix original movie Enola Holmes, starring Stranger Things phenom Millie Bobby Brown, we're here to dive into the whys, hows, and whodunits of the captivating caper. It's elementary, dear viewer. The central mystery at the heart of Enola Holmes is kicked off by the disappearance of Enola's mother, Eudoria. While Enola's older brother Sherlock arrives to investigate their mother's disappearance, Enola isn't satisfied to leave it to him. She sets out on a quest to follow the clues and solve the mystery of her mother's disappearance all by herself. Eventually, Enola's sleuthing leads her to a warehouse marked by her mother's distinctive purple ribbon. Inside, Enola finds flyers for a meeting of the National Society of Women's Suffrage, along with a pamphlet headed Protest, Unrest, and Civil Disobedience, and containing instructions for constructing an Orsini bomb. Moments later, Enola uncovers crates of these bombs within the warehouse and worries about what exactly her mother has gotten herself involved in. We never actually learn the specifics of what Eudoria's group was planning, but it's safe to assume that it was both dangerous and illegal. When Eudoria visits Enola at the end of the movie, she remains vague about the specifics of her plans, but does mention that the reason she didn't tell Enola where she was going was because it wasn't safe, adding that,
"You have to make some noise if you want to be heard."
Since we never hear of any sort of attack in Enola Holmes, it seems probable that whatever Eudoria was planning is still in the works. Enola's quest to find her mother kicks off when she realizes that the little box of gifts Eudoria left her contains a cipher. Its encoded message leads her to where her mother has hidden a large stash of money, along with a cryptic note which reads, "Our future is up to us." Enola interprets this as an invitation to follow her mother, and immediately boards a train to London hoping to find her. As she searches, she leaves ciphers of her own in a number of newspapers, then routinely scours the classified ads for a response. Enola is positive that her mother has left her a puzzle that only she can solve, which will explain everything. But by the end of the film, it becomes clear that Eudoria never intended for Enola to come after her, and that Enola's actions have in fact taken her quite by surprise. But if she didn't want her daughter to follow her, why did she leave a trail of breadcrumbs for her to follow? Well, she probably didn't think that's what she was doing. More likely, Eudoria was hoping to reassure Enola that she was alright and that no one needed to come after her. Her short message was probably the closest Eudoria felt she could come to giving Enola an explanation for why she'd left, without involving her in her dangerous plans. As for the money, Eudoria probably wanted to make sure Enola was well provided for once she was gone, and never dreamed she'd use it to track her down. Much is made in Enola Holmes of Eudoria's fondness for ciphers and anagrams, and she uses both to communicate with Enola. At first, when Enola overhears her mother talking about Ellie Houseman, she assumes that she must be a woman with some connection to her mother, and resolves to find her. However, she eventually realizes that her mother was speaking in code.
Our choices. The bankmen met, entangle her, or Ellie Houseman.
All three of these names turn out to be anagrams for London locations: the Embankment, Bethnal Green, and Limehouse Lane. The women were discussing possible locations for the next phase of their plan, and ultimately decided on the warehouse at Limehouse Lane. When Enola goes there to investigate, she finds activist flyers sitting alongside crates full of explosives, indicating that whatever Eudoria and her allies are planning isn't exactly going to be a peaceful protest. Enola never learns where the demonstration itself was going to be, since Limehouse Lane is just the location of their staging headquarters. Whatever it is, it's going to have to wait, since Enola destroys all the explosives in the warehouse while escaping the sinister Mr. Linthorn. When Enola first meets Viscount Tewkesbury, the Marquis of Basilwether, he appears to simply be a sheltered young aristocrat yearning for a bit of freedom. But they both quickly learn that someone has actually hired a hitman to kill him. Enola suggests that a member of his own family may be behind the plots, reasoning that someone close to him has a lot to gain by seizing Tewkesbury's vote in the House of Lords. Enola's initial theory is that the culprit must be Tewkesbury's uncle, who would inherit the estate in the event of Tewkesbury's death. His uncle would also have taken over Tewkesbury's spot in the Lords, giving him a pivotal vote on the upcoming reform bill. However, it turns out that Enola was wrong. It was Tewkesbury's grandmother, the Dowager, who was plotting his demise, not his uncle. The Dowager tips her hand when she talks to Enola after discovering her in Tewkesbury's treehouse. She tells Enola that the role of an ancestral landowner is to protect and preserve old ideas in a rapidly changing world. This extends in her mind to resisting political change, such as that contained in the reform bill. Although the Dowager cares for her grandson in her own way, she thinks his progressive ideas threaten her way of life, and the only way to safeguard the future of the country is to stop him before he can begin pushing for change. After Enola is attacked by Mr. Linthorn in his attempts to find and kill Tewkesbury, she travels to Basilwether under the guise of being Sherlock Holmes' assistant. While roaming the grounds, Enola comes across the tree branch Tewkesbury told her about.
A tree branch broke above me as I was collecting wild mushrooms.
At the time, Tewkesbury chalked up his near miss with death as a light bulb moment, prompting him to run away from home and seek out the life he truly desired. But Enola sees that the branch has been cleanly sawed through, indicating that someone intentionally dropped the branch on the boy. She then finds Tewkesbury's treehouse, in which he planted the clues that led Linthorn to Limehouse Lane. Enola quickly realizes that the Limehouse Lane clues were planted to misdirect anyone who might pursue Tewkesbury. She discovers his real destination by looking at which parts of his book seem the most well visited, with pressed flowers between the pages indicating his intent to reinvent himself as a flower merchant. It appears as though Tewkesbury's number is up during the climax of Enola Holmes, when his grandmother finally reveals herself as the mastermind behind the assassination attempts, and takes it upon herself to shoot him in the chest. Tewkesbury is knocked flat on his back, and Enola assumes he must be dead after taking such a devastating shot at close range. But moments later, Tewkesbury sits up, revealing that the shotgun pellets were stopped by a metal plate he was wearing under his shirt. Considering that Tewkesbury hadn't known they were headed to Basilwether until Enola made a spur-of-the-moment decision, when did he have the opportunity to don a makeshift bulletproof vest? The last we see of Tewkesbury before he attacks Linthorn, he watches a bullet deflect off the metal chest plate right beside his head. The plate came from a suit of armor that Linthorn had shot previously, causing the scattered pieces to fall around Tewkesbury. Although we didn't see it, Tewkesbury must have quickly grabbed the chest plate and tucked it underneath his own shirt as protection before jumping back into the fight. It didn't help when Linthorn was trying to strangle him, but proved pivotal when his grandmother shot him. The plot to assassinate Tewkesbury all boils down to his vote on the Reform Bill in the House of Lords. Before Tewkesbury found himself in his grandmother's crosshairs, his father had been in favor of the Reform Bill and had passed his ideology along to his son before his mother-in-law had him killed. The Dowager is staunchly opposed to the Reform Bill, firm in her belief that the best thing for the future of the country is to keep things just the way they always have been, and to actively resist significant change. But what exactly was the Reform Bill anyway? Although there are several noteworthy reform bills in British history, the one at the center of Enola Holmes is the Third Reform Act of 1884, a real piece of legislation which extended the right to vote to male tenants and landowners in the countryside, a right previously held only by men in the towns.
There's one thing this country doesn't need. It's more uneducated voters.
The Reform Bill significantly expanded the British electorate, making it an important step on the road to universal suffrage. However, despite its great strides forward, the Reform Bill was far from perfect. It left 40% of men and all women without a vote, and left Enola and her mother with a lot of work still to do. Sherlock doesn't have many memories of his sister Enola as a child, but one has stuck with him.
You had a pine cone wrapped in wool. Dragged it with you wherever you went, calling it Dash.
He later finds the wool-wrapped pinecone under Eudoria's pillow and brings it to Enola when he visits her at boarding school. When he gives it to her, he tells her that he finds her extraordinary and gives her some important brotherly advice.
The choice is always yours. Whatever society may claim, it can't control you.
At the end of the film, Sherlock leaves Enola a coded message posing as their mother, in the hopes that she'll come to meet him. As he waits, he asks Mycroft if he can be Enola's guardian, to which Mycroft readily agrees. They both prepare to leave, but then Sherlock notices that Enola has left Dash on the statue at the center of the courtyard. He looks around for a minute, smiles, then replaces the pinecone and walks away. Given their earlier conversation around the pinecone, this is likely Enola's way of letting Sherlock know she's chosen to make her own way in the world, and his way of giving her his blessing. When Eudoria and Enola finally reconnect at the end of the film, Eudoria says something that could seem rather odd if you hadn't been paying close attention.
Thank you for your irises.
Flowers play an important role throughout Enola Holmes, beginning when Eudoria leaves Enola a collection of hand-painted flower cards, each with its own associated meaning. When Enola is placing encoded messages in various newspapers earlier in the film, she refers back to these cards.
Thank you, my chrysanthemum. Are you blooming? Send Iris, please. Iris means message.
While there's no need for Eudoria to still be speaking in code when she sees Enola in person again, Eudoria keeps using their secret shared language to help show the close and special bond between mother and daughter. Although both of the cases Enola takes on have been solved by the end of Enola Holmes, the film is still pretty open-ended when it comes to Enola herself. Her mother is still in hiding, working with her fellow suffragettes to make a better world through political activism and not-so-civil disobedience. Mycroft has gratefully placed guardianship of Enola to Sherlock, and Sherlock has in turn decided to let Enola forge her own path instead of forcing her back under his roof. So what is that path? It's a little unclear, although it definitely seems like Enola will be carrying on her detective work. She closes out her story by declaring,
I am a detective. I am a decipherer. And I am a finder of lost souls.
After telling us who she is, she echoes her brother and mother's earlier words, saying her life is her own and the future is up to us. It definitely leaves the door open for future Enola Holmes films, in which she could later team up with Sherlock or continue to establish a name for herself independent of her famous brother. Whatever happens, we can be sure that Enola will continue fighting for equality and justice, no matter where her journey takes her. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.